So as people come in, I'll just say, from Steve and I, this is really a exciting opportunity. We've never done anything like this before. So we have all of these different feelings of excitement and nervousness.
Nervousness, for sure. Glad you could all join us.
It's so nice when people put in where they're from and you start to realize that even though we seem to have this sense of physical distance, we're all really united, and how beautiful it is that we can have people from all over Canada joining us. From one end to the other, just saw somebody from Newfoundland, so that's great. We're actually from Scarborough, but nobody confesses to it.
It's actually Scarberia. We're really out in Scarborough. So
yes, there is a very strong BC contingent here.
Yeah. So I think we can start.
Okay.
I think I'd like to start. And we're going to start, our usual way of starting is with the practice. And we call this an arriving practice or pausing practice. And the whole idea is to bring us here in the present moment, to go inward and check out how we are in this present moment. And the beauty of it today, we're doing this together. So we all have a chance, wherever we've come from in our transitions, to be here now, to be here together. So that's quite remarkable. So here we go. So this practice is a secular practice. So if you don't want to do it and listen to my melodious voice, that's okay. Just take the time for you to be with yourself, which is a rarity. We don't usually allow ourselves this opportunity. So let's start, and you can have your eyes closed. It's helpful for me so I can tune in to myself, but you don't have to close your eyes. If you find that weird or strange or whatever, you can just look at your hands or at a place that's not moving somewhere, so you can allow yourself as best you can to focus. So what I'd like to do is start with the physical sensations we're feeling right now. And the obvious ones are points of contact. Your feet with the floor and how that's feel. Is it pressure, warmth, coolness, tingling, pulsations, or no feelings at all? And also contact perhaps with your chair and what it's in contact with and which body parts. Contact of your hands wherever they're landing at this particular moment. Perhaps contact of your clothes with your skin. And for some, perhaps the air movement and how that feels contacting your skin as well. So checking into these physical sensations of contact and not trying to make something happen, just noticing what's there in this moment. Doesn't matter whether you're sensing or you're not sensing, it's just allowing yourself to be with the sensations. And now the next question I have for you, what's the mind like right now? Is it busy? Is it calm? And what thoughts are you having? And as best you can, allowing these thoughts, accepting them. You know, one of the thoughts could be, what's this guy doing at this particular one? Could be a thought. And another one could be, I didn't have lunch yet. Wonder what I'm going to eat later. Whatever your thoughts are, as best you can, without analyzing, without judging, being with them. And now let's check in with what emotions and states you're with in this particular moment. Could be tiredness, restlessness, happy, sad, anxious, fearful, calm, peaceful. And it could be more than one. And it may not be any. Just checking to see what emotions and states are here right now. Not judging, not analyzing, being with them as best you can. And so now for the next moments or two, just checking the physical sensations, thoughts, emotions and states, seeing what arises and being with it as best you can. And if your eyes aren't already open, just gently opening your eyes in your own time. And welcome everybody.
So we often start off our sessions, those of us who knows, we start off our sessions with a pause practice or an arriving practice. And why do we do this? We do this because how many of you notice that you spend a great deal of time thinking about things that are in the past or imagining things that may happen in the future? What happens to the moment that you're in? And quite frequently, we find ourselves in situations where our minds are time traveling and our bodies are sitting there. And this practice allows our mind and body to be in the same place at the same time. The other benefit is that acknowledging transitions. I mean, we're usually so into the future that we never even acknowledge when we've actually finished something. And we're giving ourselves a little space before we begin the next activity. So now we're all here together, and I'm going to just share with you a little bit about who we are, for those of you who don't know us. So Steve and I we founded an organization called Mindfulness Everyday, and we've been delivering mindfulness and education programs since 2009. Our focus has always been on using mindfulness practices to promote positive health and well-being. And so, of course, it makes it no more appropriate time than the present. And our focus right now, our focus in the past, I would say 5 years, has been on bringing this training to educators. Because our belief is that if we want our kids to have a certain skill set of empathy, compassion, and kindness, and resilience, and stress management skills, and all of that, they learn from adults. So it would be best to have the teachers, the educators, the parents, the adults in their lives embody these qualities so that they can model what we want to see in our kids. And that's basically what we've been working at for the past long time, over a decade now. We are so lucky to acknowledge our partnership with EdCan and also be able to launch this series of webinars, because our focus, it feels like with EdCan and us, we're rowing the same boat. We really want to promote mental health and well-being, and we're looking at how mindfulness practices can be the how of that. So we're gonna start off right now, just so that we can put a little context. I found these stats online the other day, and it's staggering the impact that COVID-19 is having on education worldwide. And the impact that it has on anybody involved in the field of education. I love this quote from John Malloy, the Director of Education at the Toronto District School Board. His point is that even though it's been a priority for people to be getting education up online and to be getting education back happening, his priority, his number one priority, is to be aware of the health and well-being of staff, students, and their families. And that should be coming first. So right now, educators are going to be called upon to employ all sorts of different coping skills to support their students, their families, and most important, themselves. So who's going to support the educators?
We are.
We are. That's what we're here for. We like to support educators. So we're going to start off by just showing you a little video so that we can all be on the same place for what mindfulness is.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. So I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, "Who's chasing you?" But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
So the intention, I hope you enjoyed that. I really like that. That's done by Dan Harris of ABC News, and he has the app called Happify. The intention of this presentation is going to be very experiential, and we're going to allow 20 minutes for questions and answers at the end of practicing. So we're going to practice together, and because it's such a big group, we don't have the opportunity to really hear from you unless you type into your chat. And you know what? We don't have a lot of time to even introduce ourselves, so you could just, if you join up for some of the smaller meetings, we'll be able to tell you more about our journey and how we've ended up here. But right now, we're going to go into some more practice. Okay. Unless there's something else you want to say.
No, not at the moment.
So I love the way this was introduced. This is from our house to yours. So now we're going to do the very low-tech version of moving to our movement studio. So we're going to be practicing some mindful movement, and the invitation is for everybody to do the best they can and to the one thing to do is to be aware of your own limitations and to realize that you're not in competition in any way with anybody else. Nobody's looking at you. If you can do this standing up, then I invite you to participate standing up, but Steve is going to be beside me and he's going to be demonstrating how this series of movements can be done in a chair. I do notice there was an article that just came out on Zoom burnout. We've all spent a lot of time on our computers connecting with one another, and so we're just going to move our bodies a little bit, and we're going to look at how mindfulness can be brought into anything that you do. Mindful movement is one of the 4 streams that goes into the SMART program as well. So we're going to start off in mountain pose. Feet are parallel. It's about a fist and a half apart. And begin by really feeling your feet making contact with the floor. Seeing if you can notice that your weight is evenly distributed and that the body is always moving. The body's actually always trying to find the center, balance. Kind of an analogy for life. So feeling your feet planted on the floor, we're going to build our mountain pose from the bottom up, softening your knees, so gently bending your knees, and then dropping your tailbone down as if you had sand in your back pockets. And this helps release the tension that we often have in our lower back. And then shoulders, just bring your shoulders up to your ears and around, and allow your shoulder blades to lean in towards each other. And notice if you turn your palms outwards, it helps set your shoulders. And if you're sitting in a chair, you can bring your elbows close to your waist.
Okay. I don't usually do this in the chair.
We're trying this out. Okay, so now the last one is you're going to tuck your chin in slightly and lift up from the crown of your head and just really feel like you're lifting up towards the sky and you're grounded through the earth. And just take a moment here and take a couple of breaths and just notice how you're feeling right now. checking in with yourself. We're going to ask you to check in after you do this and see if there's been a bit of a shift. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to just, as if you're holding a big beach ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to inhale up and bring our hands up to the center of our chest. Exhale, round your back. Push your hands away. Imagining you're creating space in between the vertebrae and your back. And then inhale. Reaching up towards the ceiling. And then softening your knees and slightly bending back. Oh, that feels so good. Sounds are welcome. Inhaling up, and you can see my hands are in a steeple position. And we are going to exhale and go to one side. Any side, doesn't matter. Just noticing the expansion of the rib cage on one side, the contraction on the other. And inhaling up. And exhaling down. This is a good opportunity for you to trust the authority of your own body. If I ask you to do something that's not right for you, then just modify it so that it is right for you. And then we're going to open our hands up really wide, and we're going to push the walls away. And just notice how this feels in your wrists and your hands. Maybe you want to just turn your arms in the shoulder sockets. And we're going to do some things for the hands, because I don't know about you, but I've been on that computer. So just shaking out your hands. And then as if you were saying stop. And then using your other hand and just pull back on your hands. Just notice how this feels not only in your hands and your fingers, but also in your forearms. And then bringing your hand down, facing outwards. And again, a little stretch here, shifting to the other side. This feels so good. And then final bird flutters. Flutter, flutter, flutter. And then as if you're pushing the walls away. And we're going to do a little bit of a twist. So again, being gentle and kind with yourself, and maybe just going 80% of what your range of motion is. So inhaling up, and we are going to exhale, twisting to one side. And then coming back to center. Yes, if you're in a chair, you're lucky you have some leverage.
Yes, I'm going to use it.
Inhaling up and twist to the other side. And then come back to center. And this time I'm going to invite you to float your hands down, and you're going to clasp your hands behind you like this, pulling your shoulder blades together, unless you have any issues with your shoulder or rotator cuff, in which case modify it as you need. So I'm going to start off, and then we are going to go forward into a forward bend for those if that's okay. If it's not okay for you to go into a forward bend, I invite you to just put your hands on your thighs and just stretch out your back like this. If you are able to go into a forward bend, we're going to invite you to soften your knees and then hinge at the hip. As you go down, allowing your torso to rest on your thighs, and then finally just let go. Give your head a shake, give your arms a shake, and just notice any sensations that you may be experiencing and the quality of those sensations. We never go to the point of pain or strain. And then, taking your own time, we're going to come up, but we're going to come up in a special way. We're going to bend our knees, and we're going to reach our hands up as if we were sitting in a chair with our knees bent, and then we're going to inhale, come up, and come back into your mountain pose, and just take a moment, if it's helpful and it's okay with your balance, to close your eyes. Just take a moment and check in. Has there been a shift? Is there a shift in energy? Is there a shift in temperature? Maybe in heart rate? Is the mind busier or quieter? How do you feel? Okay, so then we are going to move back into our chairs and we are seamlessly going to go into what we call the core breathing practice. Oh, that felt good.
Yeah. So now, when you're all settled, we're going to find a comfortable seated position. And it's similar to the mountain pose, except we're sitting down now. We check to make sure our feet are flat on the floor. And this is great to remember because we spend a lot of times in our heads and in our minds. So it's good to remind ourselves to ground ourselves with our feet to the floor. Our knees are, well, obviously bent. We're in a chair now. Our hands, just allow your shoulders to go back and your hands are nice and relaxed, whatever they land on. Your chin is slightly tucked in to elongate the back of the spine. And it's as if you're being stretched up by the crown of your head. So you're imagining yourself being nice and tall. This is a good signal for the body, this position, that you're going to be doing something important now. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to just follow your breathing as best you can. Just noticing how it is. Is it slow and steady? Is it quick or short? Is it irregular or regular? Doesn't really matter. Just noticing the way your breath is right now. And if you notice your attention wandering to a thought or an emotion or a sound, thanking yourself kindly for noticing, and then kindly and gently bringing your attention to the breath, the in-breath or the out-breath. And if you notice your attention wandering, again to an emotion, thought, or whatever it is, sound, thanking yourself kindly for noticing, and gently bringing your attention to the next in-breath or out-breath. And if your eyes are not open, just gently opening your eyes. And I have a few questions for you. How many of you are able to keep your attention on the breath for this period of time? Obviously, I can't see your hands in this media, but I'm going to go from experience here, what we found out. Okay, and how many of you noticed that your attention was wandering during this period of time to a thought or an emotion or a sound or whatever it was? Well, usually there's a lot of hands in this case, so welcome to the human race. This is quite normal. So just for your knowledge, the key element, the magic of mindfulness is becoming aware of the moment that your attention has wandered. In this case, we use the breath as our anchor with the breathing here by following our breath. But it doesn't have to be. But generally, the key moment is no matter if your attention wanders after 5 seconds or a minute, and you notice, the noticing is what we're practicing here. And so you bring your attention to the breath in this case. That's the magic. So usually people, what they'll do is, this is again, we do this with kindness and curiosity. Do you give a definition that we use?
A definition of mindfulness that we use is mindfulness is paying attention to your life in the here and now with kindness and curiosity, so you can choose your behavior.
Yeah, and that's the key, the kindness and curiosity. Usually we say, oh my God, there goes my mind again. And the mind, the nature of the mind, because we're wired this way, is it to go all over the place. And this is a training type of thing to bring our attention, focusing in the awareness right now, in the here and now. That's it. That's simple, and it's not easy.
The training of being able to get yourself out of automatic pilot. So instead of reacting to situations and being able to respond with wisdom and with awareness is the basis of self-regulation skills, resilience skills. And this is why mindfulness has been so helpful in managing stress and helping with attention control. There's a beautiful quote. I'm going to show you the quote from William James. And he says that the faculty of bringing your wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. And he feels that this would be the basis of education. And that's why bringing mindfulness into education is such a really good fit. What actually is happening is that when something happens, what actually happens, the difference is without mindfulness, it goes into unconscious reaction, and sometimes in ways that can harm self and others. With mindfulness, you go into a conscious response. You decide what you want to do. You're not driven by your automatic habits and conditions from before. So mindfulness has an evidence base that's going back to the 80s when John Kabat-Zinn first brought this into a medical setting. So we've had a lot of opportunity to look at the benefits, and there's been a lot more research that's showed up in education. What everybody to do is to just, again, get into your mindful position. We say that because it helps you set an intention to pay attention in a bit of a different way. And we'd like to take the opportunity to share a poem with you. And we also welcome contacting us. So it's Heidi at Mindfulness Everyday. It's Steve at Mindfulness Everyday. You have the contacts from EdCan from signing up. And, we're here. We're at home. So we're available for either online, to speak to you by the phone or online or by email, any way that you have, if you have some other questions that you want answered.
This poem is called Take Time. Take time to think. It is the source of all power. Take time to read. It's the foundation of all wisdom. Take time to play. It's the secret of staying young. Take time to be quiet. It is the opportunity to seek our source. Take time to laugh. It is the music of the soul. Take time to be aware. It's the opportunity to help others. Take time to love and be lover. It's our greatest gift. Take time to dream. It is what the future is made of. Take time to reflect. It is the great power on earth.
And I would add, just take time to breathe and be right now throughout this entire time. And from the bottom of our hearts, we wish you well and your families well. And for those of you who are in education, and actually for everybody, for supporting your families, for supporting your friends, for supporting your community. We all have this incredible desire to help, and we want to just appreciate everybody for every effort that you're making to help us through this situation.
We are all doing wonderful things. And thank you so much from both of us for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.